Thank you all very much. This is going to be very short and sweet. Press availability after the meeting we just had in the committee room. Make sure everybody has an opportunity to ask any questions they'd like answered, both from myself or from Congressman Rooney. Obviously, we met today and discussed, on my part, the history of Everglades restoration and the state policy making that led us to the point we are today. Congressman talked about his intense commitment to see the federal share of this obligation met and upkept. So with that, open up to questions.
You bet.
Yeah.
Congressman, there is a proposal by a couple of legislators. You talked about how you'd like to see the federal government accelerate and put more money into repairing the dike. There is a proposal that would take it the next step, and that is to allow the dike to be fortified in such a way that they could actually increase the water level from 15 feet to as much as 19 or 20. This is a proposal by Senator Simmons, and I'm wondering what you think about that, whether you think that's feasible, whether you think that is, the federal government will be open to a no-interest loan from the state to do that work. What are your thoughts?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't thought about the dike level raising that much because I've been so narrowly focused on this $7 billion of federal participation that we need to get to finish out all the WRDA projects through the 2016 WRDA bill. I know there are some complications if the level of the lake is raised that would be beyond my pay grade to describe, but it involves estuaries, animals and plants that live in those estuaries that someone would have to explain to you that I can't do. So it's a lot more complex.
How feasible do you think that proposal would be for this legislature to get behind?
Oh, I don't know. But I know that if we need all these billions to finish all these projects, and we need $500 million for the Corps to finish the dike to the 16 or whatever it is, 18-foot level, I just haven't really focused on putting more money into the dike than we have to do to be able to move on to the other projects.
Is it premature to go that direction?
Well, again, the dike needs to be put up to the level, what is the current call for, 16 feet or 18 feet?
18 feet would be the top end,
right.
would be go back to historic operations.
Right. Historically, the lake's never gotten above 18.77 feet. So if the dike would be completed as planned and the lake level could go up to 18 feet in an emergency condition, then I've been focused on any other money we get out of the feds needs to go to bring the feds up to 50-50 match on executing the SERP projects.
You all didn't discuss Senator Negron's proposal for a Wordsworth Reservoir. Is that deliberate, or do you have an opinion on that?
Well, again, my job is the federal office holder, and my focus has been on federal appropriations. The Corps of Engineers doesn't buy land, as Matt said in the testimony. The Corps of Engineers builds things on land that someone executes some kind of joint teaming agreement with them that owns the land. So that's why if the state wants to buy that land, fine. But the state's got 15,000 acres right now down at a place called what would become A2. The lease expires in 2019. The project is authorized in the WRDA 2016 bill as part of the SEP. So I'm sitting there saying, I'm just a simple business guy. Why don't we just build that? That's $500 or $600 million of the $2 billion right there.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be a shallower water treatment?
It's going to be about 4 feet to be able to contain treatment, 60,000 acre feet.
Do you think it should be deepened?
There were studies done of that, and they kind of proved up that it was inefficient, and you lose the storage capacity.
So it would not seem to be providing any additional storage then?
No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. Again, I'm not that good at this business yet. You lose the treatment capacity when the depth gets too great, and then you lost cost-benefit efficiency when the depth got over 4 feet because you were paying like 200 times as much money to get another few feet of storage, and you gave up treatment in the same time. So I think the decision was build A2 according to the plan and do the other SERP projects and then see where they are on other land that might be needed sometime down the road.
Yeah, to your underlying question about Senator Negron's proposal and the House companion, today was about getting the committee up to speed A lot of information, and really chock full of information we squeezed into just a short committee period. But for them to even be able to understand what they'd be considering one way or the other, we need to make sure they have the background information on how we got here. What did all the policy decisions look like that brought us to where we are right now?
Do you think that history up till now sort of speaks against building reservoirs?
No, I think it demonstrates that it's a more complicated question than just any kind of bumper sticker slogan we'll ever be able to address. Nothing that happens in the Everglades fell out of the sky yesterday. It was a series of decisions, affirmative decisions, mostly by this legislature, to drain it and develop it and to build what we have today. Clearly, we've also recognized over the last 25 years that it's had, really going back to at least 76 with the Kissimmee restoration. We've recognized that was a mistake in many cases, and trying to not completely boot everybody out of South Florida, 1.5 million people in the lower counties and the farms and the residents south of the lake, and at the same time try to implement restoration that's a balance with those folks. I think you saw there's a lot of projects, both the Congressman and I have pointed out, there are a plethora of projects that remain incomplete, and it's unacceptable, frankly, how long it's taken with projects still undone. Look at Tamiami Trail, you go back to 87 when that was identified as a project that needed to be addressed, and it's still far from being completed.
Yeah, I might add, the complexity of the situation makes it all the more difficult to keep a united message and a message that can be understood by appropriators in the Congress and that competes with the other states that are vying for infrastructure money. I mean, we're trying to talk about 68 projects, all parts of the lake. Very difficult to see what they really even are till you go down there and look at them in the flesh. I mean, they're basins. They're not like the Grand Tetons, like I said, And so this complexity, it makes it all the more important that we understand a few fundamental facts, like the Corps doesn't buy land. The Corps builds things on land. The Corps is paid for by the federal government. The Legacy Florida is paid for by the state, $200 million a year. The Corps hadn't put in that much money. They've been putting in about half of that. They're $1 billion behind, and we have some $7 billion of already authorized projects to finish. $5 billion in the Word of 7, 14 and 16 bill, and then the SERP one. So we've got a lot of work to do.
Sorry for maybe asking a quick question, but if we've got a lot of work to do, does that mean a lot of work other than building the Senate President's proposed reservoir?
Well, I know we're $7 billion away from doing everything that the Congress has authorized now, that the state of Florida and the Congress have authorized now. And that's what I put in that testimony, which you're free to get a copy of, I think. It's
Yeah,
out there.
absolutely.
It lists all the different projects, and it says how much money has gone in from the Florida and the federal amount, how much is it going to cost in total. And I just did the math and added it up.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the question of what we're going to do regarding Senate Bill 10 and its companion is not a question for the Congressman. It's one for us to grapple with here in the House. There's no question that the President and myself have continually shared a commitment to see estuary discharges eliminated. We went and testified before Congress 3 years ago together, talking about this exact same issue. It's something we both focused on for many, many, many years, predating our service in the legislature. Ultimately, he's proposed a scenario that he thinks would advance that goal. What I tried to accomplish today, and I think we did, was put context to that proposal. Again, you've got members on the committee and within the House, many folks who have never spent any time on this issue. And so to ask them to just drop in and make an actual reasonable assessment of what we should or shouldn't do without any prior information, I think that would be extremely unacceptable on our part to ask that of them.
When you look at the timeline of this, there really is a lot of attention paid to what the federal government has not done. But over the years, there have been a lot of decision points where the legislature had an opportunity to either keep the agreements in place or slow them down or delay them. And there were times, especially the 2003 bill, ultimately that got a judge to say that a judge was thrown off the case because he was making a point that he thought that the legislature was trying to interfere with the progress of the SERP program. Isn't the legislature also to don't they have to hold some responsibility for where we are today?
Well, I think we hold responsibility from the very first day we became a state, and we said we'd like to drain it and build it.
Well, let's talk about the more recent
Sure.
history, the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been here for 6, and so in the 6 that I've served, I think we've made extraordinary progress and collaborative progress. And here we have today a passionate advocate from our congressional delegation who has organized the entire 27 Congresspeople together to focus on that side of the commitment. We carried last year, Senate President Negron was the Senate sponsor on Legacy Florida. Representative Harrell and I were the House sponsor. We have dedicated the money to meet our commitment. So, whatever transpired 7 years before I got elected, I put it in the same basket as all those other decisions. They were decisions both good and bad, but I can only hold myself accountable for what I've got control of right here, right now. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.